first rule for disease care, if you go to any leading institute, be it the American Heart Association, Harvard or Stanford, Ayurveda, yoga, the first thing they'll tell you is,
what is the most common misconception about gut health?
You have to embrace all sciences. You're not anti-allopathy, you're not anti-Ayurveda, you're not anti-homeopathy. They're all sciences on different ends of the spectrum. The beginning of the spectrum are your preventive healthcare life sciences that teach you how to preserve your health. Children are unfortunately exposed to a lot of FMCG foods and fast foods. They have a shelf life of 6 months to 12 months. The logical reasoning is it can survive in my gut also for 6 months. You know how much microplastics human beings consume per week? The size of a credit card, apparently.
Crazy. It's found in our breast milk. It's in our feces, it's in our breast milk.
It's in the placenta. The child starts its journey on earth with microplastics in the placenta.
There's someone who suffered from PCOS.
I have a terrible amount of pain and I feel like I have to resort to a painkiller. Women who take a lot of ibuprofen and painkillers, during their period cramps, you're actually increasing your risk of infertility, cardiac health issues.
They basically kill the nervous system that transmits the message of pain from that part of the body to the brain.
Now, if I tell you, can you slow down your heart rate? Can you do it? I think if I were to breathe deeply and just calm my mind, maybe I can. We actually do not directly control our heart, our lungs, our intestines. The only thing you can actually control in the physiology is your breath. If you're bloated, tired, moody, breaking out, or just not feeling like yourself, this episode is for you. Gut issues are at the root of everything we know, but today we're cutting through the crap, literally and figuratively. From Ayurvedic rituals to modern microbiome science, I hope this episode changes the way people look at their health forever. And to help it break it all down, I'm joined by Dimple, who's a gut health expert, founder of Prana Healthcare, and the author of Heal Your Gut, Mind and Emotions. And she's helped hundreds and thousands of people heal chronic diseases through their gut. Dimple, it's so good to have you here, and thank you so much for everything you do. Thank you for joining us, and welcome to Sustainability with Shreya.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure. I'm glad that we're having this conversation, and there's a platform where people can learn, how to take care of their own health rather than running pillar to post, clinic to hospitals, trying to figure out a solution for their problems. If you could fix it at home, at least a majority of your problems, life becomes easy.
And it's so important, gut health today, right? And I'm so glad so many people are talking about it. But I want to start off by asking you, what is the most common misconception about gut health? What is one thing you wish people understood about why gut health is so important?
Now gut health has obviously become like a very promising Gen X word, everybody wants to use it, or Gen Z word, if I might say. Everybody thinks gut health means drinking kombucha and kefir and having some kimchi and some sarkar, and maybe getting a gut microbiome test done and then having one of those gut healthy probiotic drink available in the market. They think they're taking care of their gut health by doing all of this. But again, you've been very gimmicky about it. Understand gut health is not just the food on your plate, but it's also your lifestyle, your circadian rhythm. What time do you wake up? What time do you sleep? What time do you eat? When do you have the largest meal of the day? What combinations of foods you're eating impacts your gut health, can trigger IBS and colon health issues. If you have wrong combinations, it can be very toxic, right? And if you have foods that are undercooked or overcooked, foods that are batch cooked over the weekend for the whole week, you could be compromising the health of your kidney and liver, which are your detoxifying organs. You might be exposing your body to a lot of mold. And now, luckily, a lot of leading institutes have come forward, like Harvard and Stanford, and many of them. They've said that we've abused our body with overuse of antibiotics over the last many years, which has destroyed our gut microbiome.
Overuse of antibiotics.
Because of the use of antibiotics. Because what antibiotics basically does is when you're sick, they're not able to isolate that one particular bacteria or virus that's causing the disease. So they give you an antibiotic that destroys all the good and bad bacteria in your gut. And you start from scratch.
Yeah.
Right? But also, it's not the doctor's fault because, patients are also in a rush to get ready. They don't want to take time to rest, recalibrate, and rejuvenate the body, right? They want to get results instantly. And they go to a doctor saying, I want to get all right. I just have 3 days. I have to get back to work. I have this, I have that, right? And the doctor's also under a lot of pressure to show you results. And then they give you antibiotics, okay? And there's a saying that when you take English medicines, you have to take another set of medicines to recover from the English medicines, right? There's a quote in English that says that. What it means is basically when you take antibiotics, you've destroyed your good and bad bacteria. And then you notice your digestion is so bad, the taste in your mouth has changed, your metabolism is weak and sluggish, your colon movement is like haywire, and your appetite is like completely gone. You just have no interest in food. That's because there's no bacteria left in your gut to digest the food that you're planning to eat. And then they put you on a lot of probiotics to recover from antibiotics. So then they'll tell you to have a lot of dahi and yogurt, which are two different things, by the way. And then they'll tell you to load up on kombuchas and kimchis and sorkat. But you've basically destroyed an entire rainforest simply because there was a little fire in one part of the body, in one part of the forest.
And we do that so often. I mean, fever, period
Deforestation.
pain, whatever, you would resort to an antibiotic or painkiller
Yeah.
right away.
Yeah.
And you're saying that's just destroying our entire
Absolutely.
microbial ecosystem.
Absolutely. And it has a long-term side effect. And painkillers, they increase the risk of heart attack, cardiac health issues by almost 20%. So women who take a lot of ibuprofen and painkillers, during the period cramps, you're actually increasing your risk of infertility, cardiac health issues, mental health issues. It's a neurotoxin as well. Most of these medicines, they basically kill the nervous system that transmits the message of pain from that part of the body to the brain. Right? What are you doing? You're basically cutting off the communication and the conversation between the uterus and the brain, basically tricking your body into thinking that there's no pain happening here, right? The pain is happening. The pain is basically a message, a communication from the body telling you that it needs attention here to address the deficiencies and the health issues in this part of the body. So instead of addressing the deficiency and the health issue and the root cause and the trigger, you're basically suppressing and saying,
it.
shut up.
Yeah.
You're basically telling your body every single time when you take antibiotics and painkillers, shut up.
Not now. I have work to do. I have other things to do. So I don't want to deal with this right now.
How's the body going to feel? I remember a client recently, and I told her, she's like, no matter what I do, I just can't shed weight. And I was like, wait, this is not about weight loss. Let's go back a little deeper. And then, turns out that she had to abort a child at 6 months of pregnancy because the fetus did not develop. And then she was overdoing herself in the gym, and her uterus lining is very sensitive. It's completely damaged and ruptured, and she's overdoing it in the gym to compromise for the weight gain, right? I said, oh, this is not about weight gain. You have ruptured and damaged your uterus because of whatever health issues or lifestyle or food habits. And now you're over-compromising and you're doing this heavy workouts in the gym that is weakening your uterus even more. And your body, as a defense mechanism, has shut down and decided not to listen to you because the body wants to protect itself from you.
You become the enemy.
You've become the enemy, and now there's a discord, there's a disconnect, there's a conflict between you and the body, which leads to what is called as dis-ease, which means not at ease. So disease comes when there is a disconnect.
Wow.
When there's a discord, when there's discomfort in the body, you don't listen to your body in the initial stages. And then in the advanced stage, it becomes a disease which can be chronic, that has been in your body for more than 14 days. It can become acute, like a heart attack, and then you have to be rushed to the emergency room and you have to get a surgery done, where they have to cut your body open to fix it, right? But why wait to get to that stage, right? If you look at the spectrum of healthcare, it's very interesting, and I've come to appreciate all sciences even more as years pass by, right? There's a time when you're like anti-allopathy, then you're anti-Ayurveda, then you're anti-homeopathy, then you're anti-this.
Whatever the new trend is.
It's crazy, right? And I met this guy who is a very famous influencer, an allopathy doctor. And at one point in time, he was anti-homeopathy and anti-Ayurveda. Okay. And I just shut off all the noise and the information from him for some time. I said, I don't need to engage in any more anti-Ayurveda conversations, right? 3 years later, we meet again. And he was thrilled to see me. And I was surprised. I was like, oh my God, is he happy to see me? We're going to be on the same podcast. And he tells me he's tried Ayurveda after having hit many blocks in allopathy, right? So I've come to that stage, where you have to embrace all sciences. You're not anti-allopathy, you're not anti-Ayurveda, you're not anti-homeopathy. You have to understand that they're all sciences on different ends of the spectrum. The beginning of the spectrum are your preventive healthcare life sciences that teach you how to preserve your health. So first step is actually preserving your health. How do you preserve your health? Yoga, breath work, pranayam, that's basically pranayam.
Sleeping well,
Sleeping on
exercising.
time, waking up on time, using your body, moving your body. Exercise is like, again, an overabused word. When they say exercise, the first term that comes to your brain is go to the gym and lift heavy weights and, run till your heart, wants to crash. And that's
Yeah.
exactly what's happening. A lot of people are collapsing in the gym with a cardiac arrest. So you don't have to be extreme about it, but it's about syncing your id and pingla, syncing your yin and yang. This is one side of the body is id, one side of the body is pingla, one side of the body is yin in Chinese language, and one side of the body is yang. So the two different parts of the body, like your right nostril is different from your left nostril. Your right nostril controls the sun. It's influenced by the sun. It warms up the body when you inhale from your right nostril. But when you inhale from your left nostril, it cools your body down.
That's why pranayam.
That's why we do pranayam, anulom, right? So when it comes to preserving your health, these things play a powerful role. Pranayam, anulom, okay? And I learned this at, Baba Ramdev's camp, and I spent like 10 days at his camp, and I was observing him up front, first row for 10 days, looking at him, talking to him. And I was like, what is this mystery, this man? He did reverse paralysis in his body, left side of the body. He reversed 99% of that disorder. One eye still, is dysfunctional in whatever manner. And then he's like, if you just kept doing anulom for 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, you don't have to ever see a doctor. And I was like, really? And then it made sense when I started meeting more and more people who said, oh, before eating, they'll do anulom. It balances the digestive health.
Before eating?
Yeah. When they're getting anxious, when they're getting angry, they'll do anulom. It immediately balances their emotions. When they're getting nervous about going on the stage, they'll immediately focus on the breath. They become okay. So it was like, doing one little thing, which is your breath. Because remember, we as human beings do not control our internal physiology at all. Okay?
What do you mean by that?
We do not control our inner mechanism at all. In the sense, can you control your heartbeat? Now, if I tell you, can you slow down your heart rate? Can you do it?
I think if I were to breathe deeply and just calm my mind, maybe I can
The
slow it down
answer
a little
is,
bit.
we actually do not directly control our heart, our lungs, our intestines, our brain, even our thoughts sometimes is out of order. We can't control it. The only thing you can actually control in the physiology is your breath, which is what you said. When I said, can you control your heart rate? You're like, I'll focus on my breath. So the only thing you can actually control about your health is your breath.
I'd never considered that.
Internal variables cannot be manipulated and managed by us. But if we control our breath, we can change how our body performs, how our doshas are, how our blood circulation is, how our homeostasis is, what is the temperature of our body, what's our heart rate. Everything else corresponds to the breath. You do not directly control your inner mechanism, but you do control your breath. You cannot control your bowel movements, right? You cannot control your digestion and tell it not to digest the grapes, but digest the melons for now. You can't separate it, right? They have a holistic approach and they function unanimously without any inputs from you. From here, you're not giving any messages to the gut right now saying, hey, can you produce some hydrochloric acid?
Yeah.
I need to digest some food. Can you produce a little less of it because I'm feeling very acidic today? We do not yet control it. Of course, at a deeper level of meditation, you can get to that. Right now, what you can control in your inner physiology and mechanism is your breath. What you can 100% control are the external variables, which is the food on your
inside
plate,
body. Yeah.
which is what you wear, what you think. You can control your thoughts through your intentions. Okay. What time do you wake up? What time do you sleep? What kind of conversations you have? What kind of books you read? What kind of people you hang out with? Right?
It's all consumption. It's all
Where are you
whatever
buying
you're
your
consuming.
ingredients from? External variables. Those you can control.
I want to come back to something that you said as someone who suffered from PCOS but has reversed it. But I have a terrible amount of pain on the first day of my period, and I feel like I have to resort to a painkiller just to go about my day. What's the alternative to that? If you're saying that's my body's way of telling me that, hey, I'm in pain, listen to me, give me attention. And as you said, I'm just telling him to shut up, and I just want him to be. I don't want to think about it. So what's the alternative to like taking an antibiotic or taking a painkiller?
There's a whole series of methods, okay? And I'm telling you this confidently because we've reversed PCOS, PCOD for lots of patients. Any woman who has ever come to us with PCOS, PCOD, I guarantee you she's reversed it. Okay, we've treated patients from almost 64 countries now, and we have students from 74 countries. From all over the world, it doesn't matter what language they speak. A lot of times, we even have patients who don't speak English, and then we get a translator to help us bridge it, right? PCOS, PCOD can 100% be reversed. We've reversed diabetes type 2 for a lot of patients. And this girl, I'll tell you her example, before I tell you everything that she did, which you're already doing, by the way. Her mother started watching my videos, and then she started separating the videos and sending specific videos to her daughter who had PCOS and who was overweight and was struggling with thyroid and obesity, and separate videos to her son who had diabetes type 2.
Okay.
The sun brought down his HbA1c from almost like 11 to 5.2.
Almost half,
Yeah.
literally half.
Of his diabetes medicines, he reversed diabetes type 2. The daughter lost 17 kgs, reversed PCOS, and also brought her thyroid levels down to almost bare minimum, where the doctor said, we have to take you off the medication.
That's
Now, these two
incredible.
clients came to me after having recovered from their chronic diseases for a consultation. And I was like, why are you here? They were like, just to put the cherry on the top. We want to hear the final verdict. What else to be changed? Just by watching the videos and reading the book, the mother reversed chronic lifestyle diseases for both the kids.
That's incredible.
So it's not one thing. It's many things, okay? Number one, you're already doing that. Whole food, plant-based diet.
The
Okay.
magic pill.
Yeah. Whole food means farm to table. Nothing packaged, nothing processed from a factory. No additives, fillers, coloring agents, those INS and E's and all of those coded words that you see at the back of a packet. Your food doesn't have that. It's a fruit directly farmed to table. It's an apple, it's a dragon fruit, it's a kiwi, it's a muskmelon, it's a vegetable, it's millets, it's grains, right? Whole pulses, lentils, legumes, nuts, seeds. Whole food means that. It's in the whole form. It hasn't been processed or touched or interfered by human beings, right? It comes directly from nature. And then there is plant-based. Anything that Mother Earth gives, plant-based. You're cutting out 80 to 90% of the triggers of diseases, okay? Simple rule, animals get cancer, blood pressure, diabetes, mental health issues. They get inflammation, they get pus and swelling inside the body. They even get mental health issues. Where does a disease go when you consume the meat? It goes inside your body. Then your body has to work harder to fight off the diseases from that animal. And whatever energy is left, it focuses on absorbing whatever vitamins, nutrients, and minerals it can absorb. There's hardly any energy left for the body to focus on repairing its own damaged tissues, muscles, and nerves. So the first rule for disease care, if you go to any leading institute, be it the American Heart Association, the American Cancer Society, or Harvard or Stanford, Ayurveda, yoga, naturopathy, even if you're hospitalized, the first thing they'll tell you is have some fruits, have some vegetable soups, have some porridge, right? That's the first thing they do. If you have a disease, the first thing is go back to the basics. Plants don't get cancer. You can use as much plant-based foods in your diet as you'd want. Fruits, vegetables, legumes, lentils, nuts and seeds, Try to have at least 2 bowls of fruits per day, 2 bowls of vegetables per day, 1 bowl of soup per day, and then have 2 to 3 bowls of whole grains and millets. Millets is one of the best ingredients that we have in India, right? Once you've had your ingredient list sorted, your whole food plant-based diet, focus on limiting your eating window to 8 hours per day.
8 hours per day.
8 to 10 hours if you get hungry very quickly. Like, I'm a pitta body type, so I get hungry very fast. 8 to 10 hours, okay? Give your digestive system rest, 14 to 16 hours of rest. It's like, you're driving your car for 24 hours. What's going to happen? The car's going to get heated up. It's going to break down. You don't want that. You don't want your gut to break down because you have only one gut. There's no replacement for it.
Yeah. Plus, if you're eating constantly, your body doesn't have time to do anything else. I believe it's just digesting food all the time.
I mean, unlike a cow that can you chew the food 8 hours a day, almost like 60,000 jaw movements per hour for them. Or I think it's per day, right? We are not designed to chew our food 8 hours a day. We'll chew our food for like 20, 30 minutes, right? So make sure you have a lot of well-cooked foods. That's another reason why I say don't have too many raw foods. Then the body has to spend more energy trying to digest it. If you can limit your eating window, that's a very powerful trick. Eat between sunrise to sunset. Okay?
What
People
Jains
call
do.
it, what Jains do. And, people call it intermittent fasting, and now they've linked it to cardiac arrest. Reason being, people have over-abused that one particular tool called intermittent fasting and done it in the wrong way. I have met a lot of women from Bombay who do intermittent fasting where they finish off like a 7-course dinner with their friends at 10 in the night. They start the intermittent fasting at 12 in the night and it goes on till 2, 3 in the afternoon. They miss the morning. They miss the afternoon peak where your Jataragni is the sharpest. And then they try to have their first meal at around 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And they're expecting the
I'm
body
just
to
gonna
digest
look
it.
away because I might have been one of those Bombay women that you met.
That did it. And then the heart is under a lot of stress, duress. And now they've linked intermittent fasting to cardiac arrest. They did a study on 20,000 people and they noticed that, all these people who were doing excessive intermittent fasting of 16 hours, 18 hours, 20 hours also had a higher risk of cardiac health issues by 20%. Why? Intermittent fasting was not the mistake. The abuse of intermittent fasting at the wrong time was a mistake. Okay, IF begins at sunset, ends at sunrise. Do not eat foods between sunset to sunrise. So if you're delayed, if you're late for some reason, have soups and boiled vegetables that doesn't take much energy to digest. They self-digest. Vegetables have a lot of fiber. It'll add volume to the waist. It'll prevent constipation symptoms the next day. Soups is probably one of the best things you can have. You can have a thick soup if you want to have like a meal. Soup is like the one go-to ingredient or recipe or, cuisine in my diet that I must have every single day. Like there must be a big bowl of soup, right? Put all your favorite and unfavorite vegetables into that. Cook it together. You can't tell the difference.
I love soups. Every vegetable that I don't like eating, it goes in the blender, in a soup.
Best trick. Whole food plant-based diet, cooked foods, limited eating window, circadian rhythm, sleeping on time, waking up on time. You must give your body 7 to 8 hours of rest. Sleep early. Don't be scrolling on social media. I did that mistake and it had like a, domino effect because I arrived late, from another city and all of that. But all of that has a domino effect. Don't let it become a habit. Immediately arrest it in the morning by waking up early and doing yoga and breath work, meditation, journaling, gratitude, manifestation exercise, whatever you like to do. But make sure you own your morning,
Not
not
other
the
way around.
circumstances around you.
Yeah.
And if you wake up in the morning and own it, you can actually fix a hearty breakfast. You can plan your meals. Like I plan even my water. I even plan, how my water is going to be served to me. It comes from a filter that has been listening to music for 24 hours, so it
No
has
way.
been energized and then it is boiled in a kettle and cooled down in a mud pot and it's refilled in a steel bottle or a glass bottle with some sabja seeds and I carry it everywhere. Right?
It's in your basket right now.
Yes, it's right here. I carry my bottle of water everywhere. 2 bottles. Even if I'm flying to another city, I carry 2 bottles of water in my handbag. And people at the airport don't question you unless it's a plastic bottle, then they want to see, what's inside. You don't have to drink from a plastic bottle. You stop consuming microplastics in your diet, from all the tea bags that you're dipping in your water.
So many people don't know about that. The
Basics.
staple tea bags that come release billions of microplastics into
Yeah.
your
Close
into
to
your teacup.
11 million microplastics in 1 cup of tea.
I think it's billion.
It is crazy. You know how much microplastics human beings consume per week? The size of a credit card, apparently.
That's crazy. It's found in our breast milk. It's in our feces. It's in our breast milk. It's everywhere.
It's in the placenta. The child starts its life, its journey on earth with microplastics in the placenta.
That's where we come to.
Right? And there's microplastics found in the brain. There's microplastics in the heart. I remember 3-4 years ago when I made a reel saying, don't drink water out of a plastic bottle. Obviously, the sun's rays releases the BPA, the phthalates, and the microplastics into the water. And then you're drinking it. It could trigger cancer. They're like, what proof do you have? What evidence do you have? 3 years ago. And I was like, oh my God, where has our logic and reasoning gone that you need evidences for every single thing? Is it not logical for you that a plastic, when it's heated, is going to release what it's made of? It's a cheap plastic. Do you think a 10 rupee water bottle is going to be made of some expensive, high quality material that NASA uses for its space satellite? For 10 rupees, do you think they're going to give you like a high grade plastic that doesn't dissolve, that doesn't, change despite the high temperatures outside? Be reasonable. It's a 10 rupee bottle. Obviously, it's the cheapest plastic available in the world.
We've traded our health for convenience. I think that's what we've come to. But I want to touch upon what you said, whole food plant-based, eliminating dairy and meat from your diet. Even if you have gut issues, so many people will recommend curd, dahi chawal, yogurt or buttermilk as an antidote to gut health issues. How does that fit in with what you just said?
So, there was a time when obviously even I had dairy in my diet and I never liked the taste of it and I couldn't tell why. My mother would force me to have a big glass of milk.
I hated it.
And when I became independent and had my own home, I was like, I'll never have milk in my diet. I was like, out goes milk. But then, my chef would keep putting paneer in my diet and I would quietly eat it thinking protein. But that's a kind of language we've been fed. That's a kind of message we've been fed. We've been informed by the messages from the milk industry, the meat industry, the egg industry, the FMCG, the pharma. Our decisions are informed by the advertising messages from all of these, right? So 24/7, we're consuming content from them. And they are being fed to us in direct, indirect manners. You'll find influencers, showing up with smoothie, right? You're constantly consuming information. Oh, she has a smoothie. I have to have a smoothie to look like that now, right? You don't need dairy at all in your diet now anymore. Okay. There are two reasons. One, scientifically, most of us are missing a bacteria called the lactobacillus, which helps us in digesting lactose. Okay. Reason being, we live in cities, we don't live on farms, we don't have our own cows that we would keep touching and petting. Okay. When you're constantly touching and petting a cow, rubbing its body, feeding it, and the cow has a tendency of just licking your palm, no matter how hard you try. I've tried so hard to just feed the cow without letting its saliva touch my hand.
Only it's slobbery.
It will lick you. That's the love language that the cow has for you, right? What they're basically doing is coating your palm with their bacteria. Right? The saliva has a lot of bacteria. The cow is chewing grass 24/7. It has a lot of oral bacteria. And when it comes on your palm, you have the oral bacteria of the cow. Okay? Even if you wash your hands and clean up, your skin has still absorbed some of the bacteria. Your skin is also a lot of bacteria. Your gut is a lot of bacteria. The uterus, the vagina has a lot of separate kind of bacteria. The colon has a separate kind of bacteria. The appendix has its own bacteria stored. Your mouth has bacteria. Every part of your body is actually bacteria. We are basically bacteria, a collection of bacteria with human consciousness. Right? We're not a human being with bacteria inside. We're a collection of bacteria with human consciousness. Right? So when you engage with a cow, you're exchanging bacteria. There's also pheromonal exchange of information that happens, just like how it happens between a mother and a child. Okay? When the mother's feeding the child, she holds the baby like this. Okay? And there's a pheromonal exchange. The baby's scalp releases a certain kind of scent. Okay, which the mother inhales, and that information goes to the brain, and then the brain sends a message to the breast milk factory what kind of formulation to make based on the deficiency that the child has communicated to you.
Really?
Yes. Breastfeeding versus pumping and feeding with a bottle, you'll notice that the child has better digestion from breastfeeding than from pumping. Of course, if there is a physical constraint, you're not able to feed the child, fair enough. There are other ways you can fix a child's gut microbiome. A child that's born vaginally will have a better gut microbiome than a child that has been born through C-section, because a mother's colon also releases a certain kind of bacteria at the time of delivery, right? So the same rule applies when you're engaging with a cow and, when the kids are playing with a calf, you're exchanging bacteria. There's a pheromonal exchange of information that's happening. There's a hormonal exchange of information, and that builds your gut microbiome to digest the milk that the cow is giving, right? Farmers who are growing their own fruits and vegetables, like modern farmers who live in cities are also growing their own fruits and vegetables. They have better gut microbiome. Right?
Even touching soil, I believe, like just getting your hands dirty. And so many dietitians and nutritionists recommend that, okay, even if you don't have whole dairy, even if you don't eat like paneer or milk, curd is okay. Fermented dairy products are still okay than
because
raw
you've broken
dairy.
down some amount of the cortisol, some amount of the indigestion with bacteria, right? But you honestly don't need it. There's so many replacements in Mother Nature.
What are the alternatives to dahi, yogurt, curd, buttermilk? What are the alternatives?
Dahi and yogurt, the thing is people miss the texture of it. They say, oh my God, even dahi. And I was like, I start off the consult saying no dairy. And they're like, not even dahi. And I was like, what is dahi made of? They miss the texture, right? But you can make dahi from a variety of ingredients. Dahi is basically fermented dairy overnight, right? You can ferment anything. Okay, you could ferment. Obviously, Japanese people ferment soya milk and make tofu, right?
So how is eating non-vegetarian food affecting someone's gut health?
Okay, so no judgment here, okay? For anyone who's eating meat and seafood in their diet or eggs in their diet, there's no judgment. We're not even talking about animal rights and all of that. We'll put that aside, okay? We talk about gut health from a very technical perspective, from a scientific method, okay? So Harvard had also done a research on the amount of time it takes for the body to break down and digest foods. And they said animal-based foods like meat and seafood takes anywhere between 48 hours to 72 hours to break down in your body.
72 hours.
And they said, do we need fish in our diet? Something very basic. That's the first non-veg food that people incline towards. Harvard did a research and they said, no, our body doesn't need seafood. Okay, because it's one of the biggest sources of microplastics in our diet right now. Okay, it's filled with microplastics. Then they said, okay, what about meat? They found that consumption of beef and processed meat increased the risk of colorectal cancer by 25%. Okay, eggs. What about eggs? It's harmless. I'm going to get my protein. One egg has 240 mg of cholesterol in it, which people don't know. And I learned it in Harvard.
Cholesterol. One egg.
One egg. She said, you think egg has no cholesterol? And the person who was teaching me at Harvard She herself was a whole food plant-based person. I walked into the course expecting nothing. And she was all about yoga and whole food plant-based diet. She's never entered the gym. And I was like, what are you? And she kept like hinting on Ayurveda during the course, although it was like a modern medicine course, right? Lifestyle medicine. And eggs basically has 240 mg of cholesterol. 10 eggs, 400 mg of cholesterol, right? And if you're not using all of that cholesterol, it gets built up in your body. That's one part, okay? Second part is the hen that is giving the egg, is it healthy? Okay? Hens are also fed genetically modified soya and corn because it's cheaper. Okay? The hen that is supposed to take 3 years to grow to its fullest size has grown to its fullest size at the age of 6 months. Okay? Advanced, cycle of hatching eggs, laying eggs.
Because it's period. Eggs are chicken's
It's a missed period of the
so,
hen.
Yeah. For it to give only 12 eggs to 200 and whatever, as many
How
number
are they
of
getting
eggs that they give?
360 plus and 600 plus eggs per year? They would naturally give only about 15 to 20 eggs or something.
12. It's like a women's
Period cycle of the
menstrual
human
cycle,
being,
yeah.
right?
So one
You're-
egg a month.
You're consuming. What is the egg made of? The egg is made of what the hen is made of. What is a hen made of? Genetically modified foods, growth hormones, antibiotics. And they're cooped up in these tiny coops. And you see them in those trucks and buses and vans that they've been transported in. The cries, it's heartbreaking. They're releasing cortisol in their body. And do you think hens have fancy doctors who attend to them to see, oh, how's your diabetes today? How's your thyroid today? How's your cholesterol today? No, everything has gone through the roof for them. Their pancreatic health, their gallbladder, their intestinal health, the liver, the brain, everything is exploding with diseases. Where does the disease go? It goes into the body, into the cells. The cellular information that you're consuming, again, comes with the information of the disease. We're talking about genetic disorders, information in our DNA passed on by our ancestors who lived 1,000 years ago. What about the DNA and the information that's coming from the hen into your body? It is also bringing information of the disease, right? And it's literally like gambling. 1 out of 4 times you will not get exposed to a disease because 1 out of 4 animals have cancer, right? And butchers have actually confessed in the conspiracy theories that even when they find an animal has cancer, they just cut away the tumor and package it and send it because they're never going to see the face of the person who's going to eat it. So you could have eaten an animal that was suffering from cancer. Cancer is so rampant in human beings who have access to all these master checkups and modern diagnostic tools and doctors and hospitals. Animals get more diseases than human beings.
Especially the conditions that they kept in, as you mentioned, are super unhygienic.
Yeah, and then we had swine flu and this and that, and then we separate the pigs from us, we separate the hens from us, we separate the cows from us, we had the mouth and foot disease and all of these. Of course, they carry diseases, just like human beings. And then you're consuming that, okay? One is the disease and the information that they carry in their cells. Second is a digestion period. It takes almost 48 hours to 72 hours for it to break down, get digested, metabolized, and eliminated from the body. So are you going to stay hungry for 2 to 3 days when you've had meat? No. You're going to have your next meal within 3 to 4 hours, which could be fruits and vegetables that take lesser time to digest. A fruit decomposes within a few days. I was gone for 2 days and the fruit already had a little something on it. I was like, okay, bye-bye. I can't eat this.
Yeah.
But meat will not decompose overnight. It'll take several weeks, months, even if you bury it under earth. Fruits takes less time. So the digested fruit now that you've eaten will start pushing the undigested meat into the large intestine and colon. And when protein enters the colon in an undigested form, it triggers cancer cells. Okay? Versus plant-based protein that takes only 18 hours to get digested.
18 hours for plant-based protein to get digested versus 48
72
to 72 hours for animal-based protein.
Yeah, 48 hours is for seafood, but 72 hours is for animal-based meat, red meat and all of that, right? So your plant-based protein is less than a day. That's why monks and sages will have like a bowl of khichdi and they're done. Mung beans, rice, some veggies cooked together, 1 meal a day, omad, they're done. Their intermittent fasting, all of that is like, terminologies that they don't subscribe to, but they're already living that lifestyle. Right? And 1 meal a day, they're done. Obviously, the next day, the body has eliminated all the waste from the previous meal that they've eaten, and then they consume the next meal. But what is happening now? We're not eliminating our waste 100%. 80% of the people living in the cities have incomplete evacuation of waste, which is carried forward the next day. Then your fresh foods that is ingested interacts with the undigested food in your intestines and gut, rotting, putrefying, releasing gases, and you're wondering where bloating, flatulence, indigestion, burping comes from. Everyone's like, oh, I'm perfectly fine. My arms and legs are fine. It's just this.
This
I
is
just want to
everything.
lose fat here. And I was like, it is not fat. It's undigested food. They found in New York, some of the leading doctors, they said human beings had 10 to 15 pounds of backed up waste in their gut at any point in time.
10 to 15%.
10 to 15 pounds.
10 to 15 pounds of undigested.
Backed up waste, not undigested poop.
Oh my God.
That's 4 to 5 kgs of human excreta stuck inside the system.
That's just in your body.
You're just carrying it forward from one day to another. So, I tell my clients one simple example and it triggers them to change their lifestyle immediately. I said, if you had to give your stool sample to the diagnostic, would you keep it in your hand purse all day and say, I'll go in the evening and give it? You'll be so grossed and disgusted. You're like, I can't wait to get rid of it. But you're walking around with all that backed up waste inside your gut. How does that feel? She's like, oh my God, I'm so grossed out. I was like, time to get on a detox. We're going on a water fast. We're going on a fruit fast. We're going on a veggie fast. We're going to do the panchakarma. We're going to cleanse the colon. We're going to get the waste out. And once the waste is out, don't get it back in. Stop eating all the trigger foods. Stop having refined flour, your pizzas and burgers and breads, that have a long shelf life. Stop having packaged processed foods. Once you have that clean gut feeling, you just can't go back. Like today, I just had a bowl of muskmelon, a glass of water, with 1 teaspoon of clarified butter that I've made an exception for in my plant-based diet, and some nuts, some raspberries and cranberries, and pumpkin and flax seeds. That's
Sounds
all
amazing.
I had, and it was
Sounds
a complete
incredible.
meal.
Yeah.
It was a complete meal, and then I'll be so hungry for my lunch that I can have all my carbs and proteins and veggies without feeling guilty. And then my dinner would be just soup, some boiled vegetables, and if I have been good, if I've been physically active, maybe a little carb in it.
Wow.
You don't need too much protein at night. You need some. You need to have a balanced diet. 1/3 carb, 1/3 protein, 1/3 veggies. You don't lean too heavily on protein. That'll lead to indigestion, sluggish liver, high creatinine levels, constipation, colon health issues. You don't lean too much towards carbs. That's going to lead to diabetes type 2, obesity. A balanced lifestyle. Don't become a fanatic of anything and everything that comes into the market. There's a keto diet, we've become a fanatic of it. Intermittent fasting, we've become crazy about it to the point that, scientists
We've
have to tell
abused
you,
it.
stop,
Yeah.
right? Oh, I only drink filtered water, and then you go around with your plastic bottles everywhere. And now people are like, no, I'd rather go with my steel bottle
Of
everywhere,
course.
right? So don't get fanatic about everything and anything that comes, which is new in the market, because it's yet to live its cycle of discovery. When it's new, it's shiny, it's attractive to the eye.
We've not tested it out. There hasn't been enough research and evidence and studies around it.
Yeah, there's a learning
sure.
curve. Let
Yeah.
it go through its learning curve. Let it see. Let us see if it has tested, the test of time. That's where Ayurveda, naturopathy, yoga plays a role, because it has withstood the test of time.
Thousands of years.
It has kept our ancestors alive. That's why we exist, right? What can we do to not make ourselves extinct?
I see so many kids, I see so many teenagers complain about IBS, complain about constipation, complain about bloating, gas, acid reflux. What is going on? What is this generation doing differently?
One, they have inherited poor gut health microbiome from us and poor lifestyle habits from us. Okay? They follow by example. A lion cub that is born doesn't know it's a lion until it watches its parents behave like a lion, right? So your parents are the reason why you are what you are. Okay? There's no such thing as hereditary diseases. You have the same lifestyle and same eating habits as your parents. Hence, you have the same symptoms and diseases as your parents. Okay? Number one, parents are so busy now socializing, hosting, going out to dinners and parties late in the night. Some people have bars of alcohol in the house itself. And they're like, oh, we don't want our children to drink. And I was like, but you have alcohol on display in your house. So you're basically saying, I have the right to drink alcohol. You do not have the right to drink alcohol till you're the age of 18. Like, why are you imposing rights and wrongs on the child when you're not following it? You're telling the child, you can't eat an ice cream because you have a cavity, and then you're sitting and eating an ice cream late in the night. Your refrigerator is, stuffed with it. And you think your child is not noticing it. Your child is following you by habit, by observation, number one, okay? Number two, the children, unfortunately, are also exposed to a lot of fast foods, restaurants that have been set up strategically next to the colleges and schools. Right outside the school, you'll find the guy who's selling cheap ice creams, popcorn. And, they're also learning from other kids. I saw my, my niece would say, I saw my classmate eating this packet of chips. Why can't I eat it? Right? They're exposed to a lot of fast foods. Now, the fast food companies are also very clever. The FMCG companies are also targeting children through their ads. I wish ads would stop targeting children. In fact, they've stopped advertising baby food in India because someone was wise enough to file a case that baby food should not be advertised in India. Baby food for, infants it's not advertised in India because it was made illegal, because it is unhealthy for the children, right? For the baby. And mothers would be tricked into believing that they need to give the child, formula food instead of breast milk, right? Children are unfortunately exposed to a lot of FMCG foods and fast foods. They're eating a lot of packaged processed foods, chips and all of these. They have a shelf life of 6 months to 12 months. If it can survive on the shelf for 6 months, the logical reasoning is it can survive in my gut also for 6 months. That preservative is not meant to be broken down. A plastic bag could not devour or rot that chip, that French fry or whatever you're eating, which is packaged and processed. How can your body break it down? Number one. Number two, refined foods, refined oils, refined flour, which is the base for your pastas and your pizzas and your burgers and your breads. They're delicious, they're carb rich, they dissolve in your mouth, they melt in your mouth. They give you this instant sugar spike, and then you feel energetic and you feel like, completely in control of your body. But it's the exact opposite. The sugar spike, which is something that's becoming a popular concept and discussion, right? That is just faking to your body that you have energy.
Yeah. And crashes just as quickly.
It crashes. And not just that, that refined flour that you've eaten, by the way, is if you mix it with water, it turns into a sticky glue-like consistency because it has no fiber. It has been stripped away of the fiber. So if you take rice, you're stripping away the bran. Okay, you're stripping away the fiber part, and you're keeping only the carb-rich part. Now, the carb-rich part is sticky in nature. It's got a glue-like consistency. It gets stuck to your intestines for several days together, and the fresh fruits and vegetables that you're eating later is also getting stuck to that maida, which is stuck in your intestine, rotting, putrefying, releasing gases. Okay, so I remember having one piece of kulcha 2 years ago. I could feel it in my tummy for 7 days. I'm not kidding you. It's not an exaggeration. It's not a psychological thing. I could feel it. I was like, I can still feel it's in my body.
Wow.
That's what happens when you're eating clean. You can feel it in your body. You have
feel
to get to
lighter.
that level of
Yeah.
clean eating for several days and months, where then the physiology and your intuitive intelligence and your gut health starts communicating with you and the brain. And then the brain starts communicating to your intentions, which then controls the physiology.
That's so true. That's why they call it the second brain. That's why they call the gut the second brain. And I know there's that direct messaging because when I'm eating clean and I know my bowel movements are normal, regular, healthy, I know that I've got a healthy gut. So, it just speaks my skin. I know there's a direct connection between gut and your acne. I know there's a direct connection with also how you feel, your mood, right? Your weight, everything. So I know when I'm eating well, I'm feeling good about it. And there is that messaging that's going to your body, 100%.
Your gut is the biggest set of organs in your body. Your stomach, small, large intestine, liver, gallbladder, pancreas, colon. Appendix is also part of it because it provides good gut bacteria. It's the largest set of organs and it's working 24/7 because of the lifestyles we lead. Give it rest. Don't give it trigger foods. Something that's on your tongue for a minute of pleasure lasts in your gut for several weeks and months. Is it worth it? You'll come to that understanding slowly. It will not happen overnight. You start off with not eating processed and packaged foods. That's one thing that's out. Then you start leaning on a plant slant, which means 95% plant-based diet. Only 5% of your diet can be a little bit of dairy or eggs if you want, but I would advise you not to have that, if you can. Then after you come to plant slant, you'll start leaning towards home-cooked foods because the hygiene is great. The potatoes are fresh. The gravy is fresh. It's not 3-day-old frozen gravy that has been liquefied. And, sprouted potatoes, sprouted onions, sprouted garlic, which they use in the restaurants because they don't want it to go waste. They simply cut off the sprouted part and put it. It has alkaloids, which is a toxic poison that the potato, onion, garlic releases to warn off predators, to kill predators. So it can literally kill you in large doses. It can send you to coma. And restaurants obviously don't want to waste the resources. They don't have time. So they make the gravies. They store it in the refrigerator for 3 days. They, use even vegetables that are overripe and rotten, that probably has some mold. They just cut off the mold. It's sprouted. They just cut off the sprout. Sprouted onion, garlic, potato. It's a plant that doesn't want to be eaten. It has a very strong toxic chemical that it will release, the alkaloids, the glycolides, to kill you, right? But when it's at home, I will check the vegetable and fruit before it is being served to me.
Yeah.
Earlier, I didn't participate in that. I had a chef who'd cook for me and then serve it. And I was like, why am I still feeling unhealthy, unwell? And then when I started participating in the shopping, in the ingredient list and half the cooking, I was able to control what was being put in my food. Was it the right quality? Was it ripe or unripe? Was it organic? Was it washed well? And that's where I use my apple cider vinegar, only for washing vegetables, right? Not in my gut. So these are some little things you can do at home to change your gut health.
Yeah.
And your kids will learn from example.
This is a masterclass. I'm just absorbing and absorbing. I think questions have gone out of the window. I'm like, how much do I absorb
I'm so glad.
from this? You spoke about how easier and faster it is for our body to absorb plant protein versus animal protein. Does that apply to plant-based protein shakes and powders versus whey protein as well? Is whey protein harder for our body to digest?
Again, look at the shelf life. How long has that whey protein been sitting on the shelf? 6 months, 1 year, 2 years. Look at the expiry date. Anything that has a long shelf life is really not good for your gut health. You have to simply understand that foods are meant to decompose, right? Fruits and vegetables. If they have a shelf life of 2 days or 3 days, that means it's edible. It's great for the human body. Even your rotis that you make at home is supposed to be eaten the same day. Carbs, when kept overnight, starts breaking down the starch and can lead to other health issues, right? Anything that's fresh is great. If you can make your own protein drink at home, which is a sattu shake, which the pehlwans in India used to have. It's sattu powder. You can boil it in water. When protein is cooked.
Chana, right?
Chana.
Yellow chana.
Exactly.
Powder
Now
of
see the
yellow
difference. Whey protein and a bowl of cooked dal with spices and vegetables in it. Whey protein has no fiber. It is protein. Okay, you're going to put it in a glass of cold water, shake it and drink it. It's going to diminish your Jatran Agni. Okay, your digestive fire is going to become weaker when you have something cold. Versus a bowl of warm dal tempered with spices like cumin and fennel and coriander seeds, turmeric and some chilies and some cilantro on top, some tomatoes cooked together. You're changing the chemical composition of that particular protein, breaking it down, making it easier for your body to absorb and digest. Lentils, beans, and legumes is a way to cook it. If you are someone with a very sensitive gut, pre-soak it overnight. But ideally, if you pre-soak it in the morning for even an hour, it's enough. And I like to cook it in an open vessel. We like to pressure cook everything because of lack of time. And lots of women probably didn't like it when I said, stop pressure cooking your foods because you're losing a lot of nutrients. You're getting only 16%. If lentils is cooked in an open vessel, you'll notice there's a lot of foam on the top. Keep removing that foam. That's purines and phytic acid that the lentil is releasing. That's again a defense mechanism of that lentil to give it long shelf life. When you get rid of the purines and the phytic acid and the uric acid, you will not have uric acid in your body and gout. Joint disorders are coming because we're pressure cooking all our foods and all that foam is getting mixed in the dal. So you know what I do? I literally wake up early in the morning because I love my dal. So I soak my dal before, the help arrives. And then I wash it, I put it in a mud vessel and I put it on the gas with some salt and some turmeric and I start cooking it before she arrives and before we start cooking the rest of the meal. So the last thing that is cooked is the dal. But the first thing that was prepped in the day was my protein.
Was the dal. Yeah.
I reach out for my protein, prep it first and put it. People are so rich on this protein conversation, but do it right. Of course, we as a country are, on a carb-rich diet.
Yeah.
We have roti and rice in the same meal.
Yeah.
Okay, so how much carb can you have? And how much vegetables are you having on the side? Like little bit. And your child is learning from that.
Yeah, that's true. Sattu, would you recommend having that cold or sattu is like, sattu
Even
is okay?
sattu, I prefer if you boil it in water, add some dry fruits, blend it if you want into a smoothie, but have it warm. A warm sattu drink is amazing for the gut. It keeps your Agni active, your digestive fires active. It improves your gut microbiome as well because it doesn't have to work too hard to break down cold foods. Cold foods release more gases. It's far better. So, there's your whey protein, which is dairy-based, long shelf life. Then there is pea protein, which is plant-based, easier to digest and break down. And then you have the sattu shake, which is sattu boiled in water. You can add almond milk, coconut milk also to it and some dry fruits. And the best is a bowl of dal cooked with spices, tempered with some, coconut or avocado oil and some veggies on the side. So the fiber takes the dal down and prevents sugar spike and also prevents constipation symptoms, which could happen with whey protein versus a bowl of dal.
I love it.
Again,
I
different
love
ends of the same spectrum.
Full spectrum. That's what I mean. But different ends of the spectrum, but like very holistically put. I love that.
Yeah.
What are the best alternatives to dahi, yogurt, curd, buttermilk?
Yeah, I know, because people miss that texture, right? But you can ferment peanut milk, you can ferment coconut milk, you can ferment almond milk. You can literally ferment any kind of milk overnight made from plant-based ingredients. And next day it becomes your dahi.
Dahi.
Okay, coconut yogurt is delicious. It's
I
more
love
light on the
coconut
body.
yogurt. Yeah.
Although I don't make dahi at all at home because I don't like fermented foods so much. I prefer having coconut milk. So we extract the coconut milk on the weekends, and there's a big glass jar sitting in my refrigerator. You open my refrigerator at any point in time, you'll find a big jar of coconut milk,
I
and you'll
love
find
coconut
3,
milk.
4, little cans of coconut cream. It's slightly more thicker and richer for your gravies and stews, and even for your coffee if you ever want to have.
Yeah.
That coconut milk sits in the refrigerator for a few days, 3 days, 5 days. It lasts for a whole week if you
Okay.
make it well.
Yeah.
Okay. You add water, blend and strain 3 times to extract all the milk. And after that, there's no milk left in that husk, right? You can throw it away. That thing, you just take a glass of coconut milk, add some jeera, pink salt, grated cucumber. You can top it off with some cilantro or coriander, as we call it. You can even put a tadka to it if you like. I like putting pudina masala in it, pudina
Yummy.
powder.
Yeah.
So it's just coconut milk, pudina powder, and jeera powder for me. I don't like to put salt in it. You can put even a tadka from ghee with curry leaves and chili and some ginger. That's called soul curry in Goa.
Yeah.
That coconut milk is one of the best remedies for most of your health issues like PCOS, PCOD, thyroid, because it has a lot of good fats and the omega-3s and 6 that you need, which helps in rebuilding the damaged tissues, muscles, and nerves. And coconut is one of the first foods, that we offer to
delicious.
God
Yeah.
and we offer to children. Coconut is given like a prasad in temples.
Yeah.
That's the first food I reach out for when I'm shopping.
So that's your favorite plant-based milk?
Oh my
Coconut
God.
milk.
All-time favorite. People are crazy about almond milk also, but I would say heed caution, because remember, almonds is rich in oxalates, and a healthy human being like you and I can have about 8 to 10 almonds per day. A super active athlete could go up to 20 almonds a day. But if you exceed that number of almonds, the oxalates from almonds will bind with the calcium in your body and cause kidney stones. You don't want that. That's why people find a lot of high levels of oxalate residue in vegan health reports. Those who've been vegan for long, they find a high level of oxalate residue from all the spinach and the almond milk and the kale smoothies. So go easy on almond milk. I use almond milk because it's rich. It's also expensive. For specific items, like if you're making a little smoothie or a tea or a coffee, once in a while, you can put a little almond milk in that for taste. But then wean off tea and coffee and smoothie habits also, because it weakens your gut microbiome. Right? So you have a healthy lifestyle, ghar ka khana, you're sorted.
Absorbing everything you've told me today, which is a lot. I'm going to sit on it. I need to digest everything that's come my way, which has been incredible. If someone switches to a plant-based diet and someone gives up meat and dairy, what are the significant changes that they'll see? What are the significant improvements that they'll see in their gut health right away?
Number one, your digestion is very fast. You digest food very well. The sleep quality improves when your digestion is better. And your energy levels improve. Okay? Your brain fog disappears because your body is not spending too much time digesting the food. Your concentration, focus, ability to, create, ideate also improves. Creativity also improves. So anyone who's been on a plant-based diet for a few days will notice that they're feeling very light, and there's a transformation in the way they're thinking as well. It's a whole body, mind, emotion transformation that you'll experience.
We've covered quite a lot, but I'm going to do a very quick rapid fire. I'm going to ask you some questions super quickly. Starting with one gut-friendly food you swear by and eat every day.
Gut-friendly food, fruits.
Fruits.
It has to be in my diet every single day.
And that's okay raw.
Yeah. If you have constipation or incomplete evacuation of waste, you can have stewed apples, stewed berries, cherries, and cranberries. When it's stewed, it's easier.
Biggest myth about gut health that drives you absolutely crazy.
That you need to eat fermented foods every day.
I was asking you that while I was sipping on kombucha, but okay. If you could eliminate one ingredient from everyone's diet for better gut health, what would that be?
It would be animal-based protein.
There's Ayurveda on one hand and modern science on the other. Is there anything that binds the two together?
All of it. Modern science helps you identify the problem with its research, evidence-based science. Like they found that 90% of the diseases happens due to an unhealthy colon. Ayurveda had the solution for it 5,000 years ago, talking about panchakarma, talking about digestive fire, talking about fasting. So it's basically marrying the East and West, modern science and Ayurveda, that's going to help you save humanity and your own health.
Is there anything Ayurveda and modern science disagree on?
So far, I've not found too many contradictions, except for the fact that, Ayurveda has been there for 5,000 years and it was documented many years ago. But when the British came during the colonial rule, a lot of documents and evidences and literature was destroyed. And they also passed the English Education Act that I keep speaking about because I'm also doing a PhD thesis on this. They passed an English Education Act to systematically delete, destroy all natural sciences and intelligence in India to break the backbone of our country, because India survived on Ayurveda, survived on yoga. We did not have diseases until the colonial rule happened, until the British arrived, right? They did the English Education Act where funding was reserved only for sciences taught in English to push the sale of pharmaceutical drugs being manufactured by the chemical industries that was set up in Europe during the Industrial Revolution. Right? I mean, way before the Industrial Revolution. You know, when the factories were set up in Europe, these chemical factories were producing a lot of pharmaceutical drugs and they had to offload it somewhere. And countries like Australia and India was the perfect place for them to offload their produce. And that's how a lot of people lost their confidence in natural sciences and they started moving towards Western medicine as a way to sustain themselves professionally. Ayurveda invented surgery 3,000 years ago. Sushruta did the first set of surgery. And now Ayurvedic doctors need approval and permission from allopathy doctors to conduct surgery. So the inventor has been removed from the picture and the discovery has been taken up, patented by someone else. You know, cosmetic surgery was invented in India 3,000 years ago, not in the West.
Way.
Yeah, rhinoplasty was actually done in India 3,000 years ago. Cosmetic surgeries was done in India. It's not a vanity issue that was born 100 years ago. It was done way back. Kings and queens, if they had a vulture nose, they would do a rhinoplasty. If they had a broken, skin or something, they would graft it. If someone was missing a ear from battle, they took skin from the thighs or from the cheeks to build a new ear for that person. They could fix broken bones. They were able to do C-section surgeries. These were all documented back then for complex situations. Now, C-section surgery is something that you choose like on a menu, you know, saying, I'd like to have a C-section on this date and time. You know?
That's what it's become.
Yeah. Back in the day, everything had a reason and everything had a place. It was not done for everyone, right? Ayurveda is way much older. The one place where Ayurveda and Western medicine don't seem to agree is that Ayurveda doesn't have documented evidences anymore. And it's not one size fits all, right? So if one Ayurvedic doctor has been able to treat one PCOS or PCOD patient, you cannot apply the same diet, methodology, and medication for all PCOS, PCOD patient, which you can do with pharmaceutical drugs. You can take the same drug, you can control the variables and measure the impact on 1,000, 2,000, 20,000 participants. So that's where Ayurveda and Western medicine doesn't agree. It's not one size fits all. Ayurveda is a personalized science, which is why the consultation is such a long process. They'll ask you your entire family history and your own
Nadi
history since you were
Pariksha.
born.
Nadi Pariksha and all of that as well, right? Like figure out your doshas and
They'll go through
and
the
all of that
basics.
too.
The first set of questions they'll ask you is, how's your sleep? How's your digestion? How's your colon and bowel movements? How's your moods? Are you angry? Are you irritable? They'll ask you so many questions before they arrive at the diagnosis saying, this is out of balance in your body. Right? But they don't just isolate an organ and say, okay, gallbladder is not working. Here, take a medicine. But you also have to have a holistic approach that the medicine you're giving for the gallbladder is going to impact the organs around it as well. It's going to impact your blood, right? It's going to free float in your blood and impact the other organs that it's circulating to. Ayurveda has a holistic approach. It's not an isolated science. But again, Western medicine has its own strengths. It is research-based, evidence-based. It's in a controlled environment. And it has discovered antibiotics, which Ayurveda doesn't have, which helped during the Industrial Revolution because people were getting sick due to proximity to other humans. At that point in time, antibiotics helped save a lot of lives. Now, it is only destroying our gut microbiome because we're over-abusing and overusing it.
For every tiny little discomfort here and there.
Yeah.
Something people unknowingly do every day that disrupts the digestion.
That disrupts the digestion. Drinking too much water while eating food, having cold drinks, aerated drinks.
So drinking water between meals.
While having the meal. It's just literally washing away the digestive juices in your stomach.
An underrated ingredient that actually supports the gut.
Jaggery, cumin, fennel. There's a whole list actually. I don't know which one is my favorite out there.
Top 3.
I'd say jaggery, cumin, fennel. 1 piece of jaggery after every meal keeps your Agni active. Cumin, fennel, carminative in nature, prevents bloat, indigestion, gas, flatulence, burping, nausea.
Love that. My final question to you is, what does sustainability mean to you?
Sustainability is taking care of yourself and your loved ones without causing harm to the environment, without causing harm to your neighbors, to your friends, to the colleagues, to the other participants in that particular transaction. Fair, equitable, and sustainable in such a way that your carbon footprint is bare minimum. Hopefully, we'll get to that day.
I surely hope so. I think that's what we're fighting for. But Dimple, thank you so much for this conversation. As I said, I've learned so much. There's so many takeaways for me. There's so many changes that I know I'm going to make, even though I'm on a whole food plant-based diet. There's a lot more to gut health than just food. And I'm going to make sure I'm holistic in my approach of how I look at my health and what goes inside my body, but also the other things that I consume, whether it's people or music or books that I'm reading, and sleeping well, and definitely practicing a lot more yoga going forward. This was
So happy to
absolutely
hear that.
enriching. Thank you so much. And I know it's going to add so much value to anyone listening to this.
I'm so glad. I feel like every conversation that's good adds value to the universe and builds the good energy.
For sure.
And hopefully one kid or any kid who needs a little help listens to this and finds answers.
Yeah, that's what it's whether it's targeting one person or a million, whatever, that it's still impact.
Exactly.
And that's the frequency we're putting out.
Absolutely.
For
That's
sure.
beautiful. Let's
So
put out that
grateful for
manifestation
this.
and that energy that it hopes, that we hope to change lives and impact lives positively.
That's exactly why we're here. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Lovely talking to you.
You too.
Thank you, guys.
Wow.